the rancher who took down an HOA empire. When a slick letter arrived at my Wyoming ranch, offering a pittance for my family's sprawling land, I thought it was a prank. The envelope was glossy, stamped with the seal of the Pine Valley Estates Homeowners Association, and signed by a woman named Deborah Crane, their president. They offered $150,000 for 600 acres of my ancestral pasture land with a well, a creek, and road access. I laughed so hard my collie, Rusty, looked up from his nap by the stove. But buried in that letter was a threat. Sell, or they'd push the county to seize my land for community interest. That's when I realized this wasn't a joke, it was a declaration of war. And they'd just picked a fight with the wrong rancher. My name's Henry Caldwell, and I've lived on this 35,000-acre ranch since I was a boy. My grandfather, a World War II vet, bought it dirt cheap in the 1940s, back when banks were kind to soldiers. It stretches from the old rail line to the Rocky Bluffs, including a chunk right under Pine Valley Estatisa Ritzy neighborhood built on what used to be a coal mining camp. That camp shut down in the 60s, but the deed to the land? Still mine, clean as a whistle. I wasn't selling, and I sure wasn't bending to some HOA's bullying. The letter gave me 10 days to engage in dialogue or face legal action. I didn't write back. Instead, I drove to the county records office the next morning, the cold Wyoming wind nipping at my jacket. The clerk, Maggie, who's known me since I played shortstop in high school, raised an eyebrow when I handed her the letter. "They're trying to sue you, Henry?" she asked. "Worse," I said. "They think they can steal my land." An hour later, I was buried in survey maps and old deeds. Pine Valley Estates sat smack in the middle of my family's land, on a parcel leased in 1949 to a now-defunct land trust for 99 years. The lease was non-renewable without my family's written consent, and nobody had ever asked for it. Legally, every manicured lawn, every overpriced clubhouse, every fake stone facade in that neighborhood was on my dirt. They'd built a luxury community on stolen ground, and they didn't even know it. I took my findings to my attorney, Clara Bennett, a woman who could make a rattlesnake confess with a single glare. "They offered you $150,000 for 600 acres?" she said, scanning the letter. "Do they know who you are?" I slid the lease copy across her desk. "They're about to find out." Clara grinned like a coyote spotting a lame deer. "Let's make it official, Henry. We're going to remind them who owns the ground they're standing on." 3 days later, an invitation from the HOA showed up, tucked under my gate in a cheap envelope with gold lettering. They wanted me at their community hall for an open dialogue about land negotiations. I could have burned it, but curiosity got the better of me. So, I dusted off my old Ford pickup and drove into Pine Valley Estates, a place that screamed everything I despised about modern sprawl-identical beige houses, streets named after flowers that didn't grow here, and hedges clipped to perfection. The hall sat by their golf course, flanked by fountains that probably cost more than my tractor. Inside, the air reeked of air freshener and desperation. About 20 people sat in folding chairs, dressed in what I'd call suburban cowboy chic, pressed jeans, spotless boots, and flannel that had never seen a campfire. Deborah Crane, in a crisp white blazer, was mid-speech when I walked in. "Certain individuals may try to distort facts for personal gain," she said, her voice dripping with fake sincerity. I cleared my throat. "You talking about me?" The room went silent. Deborah's smile tightened. "Mr. Caldwell, thank you for joining us." I didn't sit. Didn't say I was joining. "Just here to see what fantasy you're spinning." She gestured to a table, but I stayed standing, pulling out the lease. "This says you're squatting on my land. Always have been. And you haven't paid a dime in rent for over 20 years. Her lawyer, a suit with a shiny watch, leaned over to read it. The color drained from the board member next to him. Deborah laughed, but it was brittle. "These backwoods tactics won't work here, Mr. Caldwell. We operate under governance." I handed her Clara's cease and desist letter, demanding they halt all activity on my land and remove their structures. "You're not governing anything. You're trespassing." Her jaw clenched as she scanned the page. I turned to leave, feeling their stares like knives in my back. The fight was just beginning. The next day, the dominoes started falling. Clara had filed notices with the county, flagging the lease and freezing Pine Valley's plans. Their bank pulled financing for a new eco-park when the title dispute hit public records. Their insurance carrier bailed, citing title encumbrance. Residents flooded the HOA's email, demanding answers. Why were road repairs stalled? Why was the pool closed? Why were their home values suddenly at risk? Deborah doubled down, calling an emergency meeting to rally homeowners. She painted me as a greedy land baron wielding outdated paperwork to extort them. She even proposed a $5,000 per household levy to fund a legal defense, claiming it passed unanimously. But not everyone was fooled. A knock came at my door that Sunday. It was Frank Larson, a weathered man in his 60s, who lived in Pine Valley. "I think we're both getting played," he said, stepping into my kitchen. Frank revealed that the levy vote was a sham, signatures were forged, ballots never sent. Some supporters were out of town. One had been dead for months. I gave him copies of the lease and Clara's filings. "She's building on stolen land," I said. "Now she wants your money to cover her lies." Frank nodded grimly. "It's worse than I thought." By Monday, 3 more residents contacted me, nervous but curious. The HOA was cracking. Then Clara got a bombshell, an email thread from Deborah to her board, calling me a rancher nuisance and outlining plans to neutralize my claims with PR and pressure. The treasurer had even questioned the lease's validity, but was ignored. Meanwhile, Frank connected me with a retired developer, George Harlan, who'd worked on Pine Valley's original permits. Over coffee at a diner, George handed me a folder of memos and faxes. "They knew the land wasn't clean," he said. "They built anyway, hoping your family wouldn't notice." Deborah didn't quit. She filed a petition with the county, claiming my lease was abandoned and that their investments gave them rights. But the signatures were fake, some from residents who supported me, others from a man dead 7 months before. Clara pounced, filing for fraud and subpoenaing HOA records. That's when we found the dirt. Deborah had siphoned $160,000 from HOA funds for personal trips, a gazebo, even a shell company in her cousin's name. The $5,000 levy, already spent to cover her deficits. The final blow came at a community meeting. Sheriff's deputies walked in, read charges: fraud, forgery, misuse of funds, and cuffed Deborah in front of stunned residents. The board collapsed, 3 members quit, and the treasurer vanished. Clara tallied our claim: $3.2 million in damages, plus full land rights. The county voided the HOA's charter, making me Pine Valley's landlord. The trial was a spectacle. The prosecutor laid out Deborah's scheme, building on stolen land, forging documents, fleecing residents. Frank testified about the rigged votes. A tech consultant, Lisa, read Deborah's emails aloud, her rancher nonsense line echoing in the courtroom. George's 1999 memo, stamped "Do Not Disclose," sealed her fate. I took the stand last, telling the jury about my grandfather's land and the betrayal of trust. "None of this had to happen," I said. "They just had to tell the truth." After 6 days, the jury found Deborah guilty on all counts: fraud, forgery, and mismanagement. She got 17 years, no parole for 10. The civil verdict awarded me $3.2 million and control of Pine Valley's assets. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. "Justice was served," I said. "Check who owns the dirt under your feet." A month later, I stood on a bluff overlooking Pine Valley. The clubhouse was padlocked, the golf course overgrown. I offered residents fair leases. Half left, their homes repossessed or sold cheaply. The rest signed, some thanking me for clarity. On the reclaimed land, I built a fire station, an equestrian center, and a public Gardeno gates. No fees, just open land called Caldwell Commons. That 4th of July, we grilled burgers where the HOA's private lawn once stood. Frank's grandkids ran wild, Lisa spun tunes, and George tipped his ancient hat. "Ever think of running for office?" he asked. I laughed till my sides hurt. As fireworks lit the Wyoming sky, I knew this wasn't just about land, it was about standing firm, owning what's yours, and never letting a bully win. What do you think? Have you ever faced injustice or bullying in your community? Share your thoughts in the comments. Did Henry do the right thing, or should he have handled it differently? Let's hear your take on fighting back against unfair systems.